Hello, this is Dale Matthews, and I'm joined by Mike Jones.
Hey, Dale.
Hey. So this is Saturday night. It's live at 7 days a week at 7 p.m. And the first thing we're going to talk about on tonight's Inside News is about this continuing story. This story has, as they say, legs, and it keeps going. It's the story of the little guy at the elementary school, the 6-year-old, that was punished by his principal because his parents weren't getting to school on time.
Yeah, which is kind of weird, odd way of thinking, but whatever. That's not very smart. Yeah. Well, anyway, I thought yesterday this thing has run its course. Well, it has hit some of the national outlets and even international. It was on the Daily Mail's, in on their website here this morning. Fox News, a couple of their morning shows, Fox and Friends. Apparently, it ran yesterday. They did a story on it, and just tens of thousands of comments. So it's probably bought itself a few more days in the news, I'd say.
Well, what is the story? Okay, so people in London know, and maybe, unfortunately, oh, where's my little thing at the bottom here? I know that I put that up there. Just a second, please. I did put it up there.
Yeah, well,
but somehow it didn't stay. That's weird.
People won't know what day it is. Oh,
well,
no.
Mine displays backwards, but whatever. Okay, so there's this 6-year-old that's been showing up late to school. And he and his family live within walking distance of school, but his mother has a problem with her back, and she can't really walk that way, and she doesn't want a 6-year-old walking, those blocks by himself, so she takes him into school. Now, we all already know where the problem is. Mom, you're going to need to get up a little early. She says she has trouble getting her car started. Well, okay, and so KJO didn't help on this, but KMED did over in Medford. KJO, why didn't you help on this? Okay, so anyway, they helped, and they got one of their advertisers to pick up the cost of helping fix this family's car. Okay, so now there's no excuse, even though she's gotten into a habit. Mom, you don't have any excuse. You got to get the little guy there on time. Now, most people would say, well, the parents are at fault. That's right. And the parents even admit that they're at fault. It's certainly not the fault of the little guy. Okay. So what did the principal at
right, and an interesting thing is it doesn't matter where you are in the world. They all seem to understand that they all get what this situation is. The only wrinkle in it is who are these administration people who want to punish this kid for something that, I mean, that's where the controversy in this whole situation is. Otherwise, you just tell the mom, hey, show up on time, for crying out loud.
Yeah, that's people have gone from the idea of, well, what should the kid be punished? And we had at least one local resident who thought the kid should be punished. Really? Who are you?
Oh no, there's a few of the. If you get out in some of these social media sites, and I have nothing else to do, people. Sorry, I've been out to a few of these in a number of places in the country, and the Daily Mail site there, and there are some loons. There's no question there are some loons, but the lion's share of people get it.
Yeah, well, they understand. Now, the whole story after the superintendent, Higgins, got involved, this guy should never appear in front of a camera. I can't believe what he did, how he decided to handle, because the human way to handle this is say, oh, that was a bad idea. Sorry. Have you ever had a bad idea in your life? Well,
right,
here's it. Just like Keith Hick could have handled that thing where he said something dumb. He should have said, "Oh well, everybody says. So have you ever said something dumb? I shouldn't." Instead, he decided to pretend like we made it up.
Yeah, but that's the simple explanation for something. But when you're in a situation like this, I'm assuming your mind starts playing tricks on you, and you think, well, that's not elaborate enough. I have to come up with something like the confidential cubby and
the confidential cubby. It's perfect.
The confidential cubby and the unique learning environment.
Oh,
Yes.
please. Look, according to the parents, and the school's not disputing this, the little guy would end up being 1 minute late, 3 minutes late, that kind of stuff. Now, if you've ever been in a room full of 6-year-olds, there's no learning that's taking place during the first five
That's
minutes of
right.
class, first 10
That's,
minutes of class.
yeah, that's right.
Oh, he's missed so much. No, he hasn't. Look, don't lie to us, right? Just
Yeah.
what is this? Something in the water here? What's the
Yeah.
matter
Yeah.
with these guys?
No, you know what? I just tend to think that it's bureaucrat type government employee speak.
Oh
You
man.
know, and see, because they know that generally speaking that most of this stuff's on autopilot and that they don't really do all that much anyway, so they have to make up something that sounds really believable, and in so doing they come up with something that's totally ludicrous.
These are stupid, stupid explanations. Okay, so Mike, if you don't mind, can you set up just a little bit higher? It reminds me of this John Higgins guy. Here's Higgins. Well, there's a picture of him. He's like,
It may be.
it's like leaning way over to one side, and it's like, yeah, well, it's nothing. Hey, the press has showed up on your doorstep, and you're saying, I mean, okay, look, you're instructing little guys. Do you ever tell them to sit up straight? You're on camera. Okay, that's the smallest possible thing, but he's acting like, oh, this is nothing. The first thing that he does is, oh, look at the roses the principal got this morning. Really? Come on now. This is not going to paper over this problem by pointing out that she got roses because she's such an award-winning principal. Please. That's not going to help very nice.
Oh, wait just a second here. All right, there we go. Yeah, you know what? I'm not sure if it's I have one of these chairs that you bleed the fluid out, or lift and it comes back up, and I don't know if it leaked out of it or something was happening.
Well,
with
there are people all over
camera.
the world
I don't know.
that are suggesting they bleed the fluid out of this guy, and they don't mean where he's sitting. Okay, let's just all lean over to one side when we're talking. Look, here's the thing. Just level with people. Oh, but it's such a perfect learning environment for this. He doesn't need a learning environment. You're just punishing him. No, it's not punishment. We're not separating. He's got this cardboard wall in front of him. Come on. No, it's got nothing to do. That's not credible. Okay, and so how did you get to the position of being the superintendent?
And you know what?
Go ahead.
Yeah, you're putting your finger on something that's very important about this here, and that is, who do these people think we are? They do think we're that stupid. That's why they can, they can put forth something like this and expect that people are going to buy into it. But you know what? People aren't that stupid.
Oh, did I?
And the lion's share of them are not that stupid.
Don't you want to get a close-up on the roses? I mean, don't think about this story over here. Here, lean over this direction, and let's talk about these roses. Come on, John Higgins. You're coming across as a stuffed suit. Really, just be a human being. If you are one, just be a human being, and it's the trying to manipulate the, well, this is an intense learning environment. No, it's not. It's punishment. And what kind of homework does a 6-year-old have? Come on. That's ridiculous.
Well, yes, I mean the very fact that you get detention for being late. Hello, you don't need to be a rocket scientist to put that together. What's going on there? Oh no, we weren't concerned about him being late. Well, this is not a punishment thing. We were just trying to make sure that he gets up to date on what he missed in the 5 minutes
and he
over
wasn't
the past quarter that he's missed.
You see him, and he's sitting there behind cardboard, and he's eating his lunch all by himself and crying a little bit. Okay, he's a sensitive little guy. Over next to him, I don't know if anybody noticed this, is this cup, this upside-down white cup. And it's got a big D written on it. D. Okay, let's see. The kid's name is it doesn't have a D in it. Okay, so why is this D on a cup next to him?
And
well, what does D stand for?
Well, they were very, very careful Well, they were very careful in the news story to point out that the D is for detention so that people wouldn't automatically go to the thing. Of course, this hasn't been done in many years, but they used to put people in a corner with a dunce cap and make them wear the dunce cap, so people wouldn't jump to that conclusion. They had to, oh, the D, that's for detention.
Yeah, but here's
Okay.
the thing. The principal said straight out, this is not detention. Then what's up with the cup with the D on it? Look, this guy right here. You're lying to us. You're trying to put the best face on this pig. The best possible thing to do. What, has nobody ever learned this lesson? Just be straight with us. Just be honest. Say, that really wasn't a very smart idea. We're not going to do it again. That's all.
Yeah, done. Yeah.
And now
That's all.
there's a video of this guy trying to explain himself, and it's hilarious. Okay, so we have it at
Oh, it is.
badcounty.com.
It is pretty funny.
Of course, we have it at badcounty.com. It's in the upper left-hand corner at the top of badcounty.com, and you can watch that. And in that unique bureaucratic way, he sounds just like the other liars that we've been hearing, and it's just so much better. Just be a human being, and just drop out of the Rotary Club, become a human being, and you'll get along so much better along with everybody else, that they're not deceived by any of this. Okay, it's the parents' fault, fine, but you're compounding the problem by acting like, oh well, this is perfectly legitimate way for the youngster to learn without being distracted. That's not working. It's just not working. Okay, so we've got something for you this evening that is working. One of the things that we do is we do radio ads. We don't do radio ads for profit. We do radio ads to put them on KMED. And we tried to put them on KJO, but they wouldn't accept the ads. It doesn't matter for love or money. They would not allow us to do ads. Now, why would we be doing radio ads when we don't sell anything? Mike, can you explain to the nice folks out there, why are we doing radio ads? We're not selling anything. Tell them why, would you?
I have no idea. What product do we sell here? I don't get it. This is of course the whole thing is to try and raise awareness to what's happening in your own government right under your nose, and so many people are distracted by what's going on nationally. They don't even know what's happening here locally, and it is critically important to your future here that you know what's going on.
Now, wait a minute. You tell me that you two guys are producing and paying for radio ads 50 times a week. Isn't that what you just said? 50 times a week, and you're not selling anything?
Right.
But why would you do that?
Well, we're selling greater awareness.
Honestly, that's why we do it. No, that is why we do it. We're actually spending money out of our pocket to get you to come to a non-commercial site where we're not going to make a dime off of it. In fact, exactly the opposite. And the reasoning behind it is that even if you don't come to the site, okay, don't come to the site. It's your life, just make your own mistakes. But we're trying to tell you what the news is. Really? Yeah. And what number are we up to now with the ones we're going to watch tonight? Listen to?
It looks like 426.
426 unique ads, each of them played 6 or 7, sometimes 10 times in the morning between 6 a.m. and 9 a.m. on the Bill Meyer Show. We tried a lot of different times, and we found we were getting the most response from these. And we also put them out to our email subscribers so you can hear them. And so go ahead and play that first one, and you'll understand after listening.
This is Dale Matthews, editor.
Whoop, sorry.
That's okay. I'm talking over myself. You'll understand after listening to this, after listening to all 6 of these, why we do this. Go ahead, play it.
This is Dale Matthews, editor of BadCounty.com. The bad guys are losing in the courthouse. While we wait to replace the commissioners with better leaders, that $600,000 they spent on one piece of software instead of law enforcement is now officially over. It's not working at all.
Okay, so that's the first one.
Yeah.
And let's just talk a little bit about that. We haven't done this before on Saturdays, but maybe on Saturdays we'll play back this week's. That was just this week. That was just one of six, and they play pretty much constantly. And so this one's about the $600,000 software. How much can we explain to people who maybe don't know about the 600,000? Why don't you tell them a little bit about the controversy about the 600,000 and one of those little encapsulated speeches? In fact, we're going to put you into a confidential cubby where you can explain it to people. Yes.
Well, all right. Yes, I'm here calling here today from the confidential cubby. Uh, well, essentially, it was a couple of years ago, June-ish 2013, I'm thinking. Anyway, that's when they decided that they were going to spend about $600,000 on some new software for the assessor's office, and this was going to, make life perfect and everything. And they came out with a number of seemingly justifiable reasons why they needed to do this. And there was a little bit of controversy at the time, but they did a pretty good job of smoothing it over. So anyway, however, though, people that were reluctant to vote for the levy were even more reluctant to vote for the levy when this expenditure was looming in the wings. And so now here we are 2 years down the road, and they have announced that basically that whole deal is kaput. Apparently this software situation didn't work out, and they are being very non-transparent, shall we say, when it comes to telling us what money they have spent with this company, how much money they have paid out to them, how much of the maintenance fees and transportation and all of these things. They've come out with a few different things, 48,000, 8,000, and they're very unclear as to what has actually been spent. I think, intentionally so.
Do you see a common theme here? So the way that Cheryl Walker handles it, she gets on KJO radio, and with the help of Chuck Benson, says, "Well, is this going to save us a bunch of money?" Chuck, why would you ask that question? Where did that question come from? Oh, it's going to save us money, won't it? And she says, "Well, yes, that'll save us."
Hey, listen. Hey, if you've been raised watching American TV, you always know that you save by buying more.
And then she says, "Well, we already have another company." And this is completely wrong, Cheryl. Why are you lying to us? It's bad enough that you made this bad decision, and it also had an effect on that year's levy, on this month's levy, on this hour's levy. Over and over and over. It did have a negative effect, and now she's telling us, well, the software we have now. We don't have any software now. The software you have now will be more transparent. Cheryl, you're just compounding it by continuing to tell us these lies, and it doesn't help. It just makes you look like, well, guess what? A liar. Don't do that.
Well, it seems like they could do a little bit better research. Also, part of the problem with this software is, like, we're the first people to use it. And you know how software is. The first couple of generations of any given program are buggy, and this is, we're one of the first adopters of this thing, and turns out it is so buggy as to be unusable.
Right now, what would it take for them to admit that they spent all this money and all this time getting people instructed on how to use this, and they just can't get it to work? They even hired a guy to come in and try to, go after it with a chair and a whip to make it work, and he couldn't do it. They've had to give up entirely on this.
Yeah. And one of the things I really want to know, I really want to see the spreadsheet. I want to know how much money they spent and where. I want the whole thing laid out. Right now they're being very cryptic about it, and you can't help but think, because of that they are hiding something. Go figure, because they never do.
They don't have any reputation for doing that, so really.
Right.
All they
Yeah,
need to do is just tell us some story, and Chuck Benson's going to buy it and then try to sell it to us. You
sure.
know, that it just you're compounding the problem, Mr. Higgins and Ms. Walker, by telling us some unbelievable version of this. Just can you be humans and just confess? Look, we warned them not to do this. We said, with all of the financial problems that Josephine County has, we're going to be early adopters of some software, and we're going to spend $600,000 on buying it when you don't get to own it. We don't own that software. Really?
I just don't think they can help themselves. These are not experienced people. I mean, it kind of conflicts with what you might think. Hey, we elected these people, obviously with some credibility there. Well, you know what? Maybe not. Maybe they
And
just
Cheryl
created.
won by 62 votes. Why, that's
Yeah.
a resounding. What was it that the people of the Democrat Party were saying about her? Well, 2/3 of the people. Go ahead and
Yes.
play the next ad, would you? This is number 2 of 6.
Okay.
This is Dale Matthews, editor of badcounty.com. The bad guys are losing at the airport. While we wait to replace the commissioners with better leaders, that $1 million drone project at the airport from Simon Hare's biggest contributor, they haven't been paying the rent.
Now, that was not on the ad. By the way, the reason the ads sound a little bit edgy is because I want them to sound a little edgy because they stand out better with all the all the ads where they're come and buy some things. We don't want you to come and buy some things. We don't have any
I
advertising.
want you to come and buy some
No,
things.
no, you don't.
Oh,
He's
I'm going to
not.
put a PayPal. I'm going to start putting PayPal links on the videos
No,
while Dale's asleep, and we'll get some money rolling in here.
no,
Because
that's not why we do this. It's
come
this
on.
thing called altruism. We're trying to be good citizens. You're ruining everything. No, we're not. We're telling the truth. Well, the truth ruins everything. Yes, it
Yes.
probably
Well,
does.
I mean, it doesn't have to ruin everything, but depends on what your motives are.
Yeah, well, all that you need to do is just cover people with roses, and they'll miss that unmistakable scent of what makes roses grow. Right, right. That's
Yes.
all. You just trot out the roses. The idea behind this one is that there's this one of Simon Hare's biggest contributors tied for first place for his biggest contributor. He said, Simon Hare said, well, it doesn't matter what they've done in the past. It doesn't matter what they've done in the past. Yes, we're going to get behind them, and this is going to be, and we're going to have drones flying. Set aside the idea of why are drones going to fly out of the airport? Well, apparently they're not. They're going to fly out of another part of Simon, and that's not going to happen at this moment. It sure doesn't look like it's going to happen. So, but we thought, well, wouldn't it be great if we got hundreds of jobs? Yeah, that really would be great, and they could use them in Cave Junction. So we tried calling their 3 international headquarters. They don't pick up the phone. They don't pick up the phone. They don't even have an answering machine. They don't even have something from Going Out of Business Radio Shack. No, they don't have it. Nothing. And when you ask them questions like, they hang up on you. What kind of attitude is this? What?
Yeah. Well.
So, yeah, that's another of the commissioner's rock'em sock'em products here that they're telling you, well, we're really doing, we need to start up a website to compete with another website. Gee, what website could that be? Go ahead and play number 3, please.
This is Dale Matthews, editor of badcounty.com. The bad guys are losing in Merlin. While we wait to replace the commissioners with better leaders, that $1 million sewer project in Merlin, in order to get the money, Cheryl Walker told everyone that the school board is on board. No, they're not. That's false.
You know, maybe this thing out in Merlin is going to be the best thing since sliced bread. At least I guess that's the way my grandmother used to put it. The thing is that she's lying, straight out lying to the infrastructure, just try to say it right, Mike, Infrastructure Finance Authority. She told them, according to what she said in a public meeting, she told the IFA that the school board there is fully on board. No, they're not. And when I went to the school board meeting and I said, this is what she's saying, they looked at me like, what? No, we're not. This is what, she can't help herself. right? This is the person that's in that office. People, well, why would you want to recall her? She's 2/3 of the population loves her. No, they don't. First of all, no, they don't. That's another lie perpetrated by her political party. I'm ashamed of those guys, really. I mean, but the other thing is, this is just a complete out-and-out lie. And that's why when you have somebody in office that's doing that kind of thing, you need to quietly take them aside and put somebody in there that at least may not be this brightest person in the entire world, but at least they're not lying to you. It's a good start. What else do you have to say about this thing about the about Merlin there, Mike?
Merlin.
Increased rates, bud. Increased rates.
Yeah, well, no, that is true. That is the big deal out of this whole deal, and that's the one that is going to hit the voter where they live. An increase between, what is it, 4 and 10 times? I'm guessing it's probably going to come down around 10. That's usually how these things go. The voters in Medford know about that. When they voted for the library levy, it'll be somewhere between 20 and 60 cents. But
guess which one they picked?
Yeah, we'll never go to the 60 cent. Don't worry about that. That'll never happen.
Next day,
yeah, that's what
60.
Yes. So that's how these things work. And so, yeah, if I was, in the bullseye of that one, I would have fear.
The vampire shows up at your door or at your window. Let me in. I won't bite you. Oh, okay. And what's the first thing the vampire does when you let him in?
You got any blood around here?
They bite you.
Yes.
Come on. How dumb can we be?
Well.
We expect an inexperienced people to make lunkhead decisions. Okay, politicians.
And that's why we're here. Well, okay, yes.
But the thing is, what we don't tolerate is lying. Just don't lie to us. I will not lie, cheat, or steal, nor tolerate those who do. See, and people say to me, well, why don't you give them a 3rd or 10th or 105th chance, Dale? Because I don't tolerate those who do that. That's the last part. That's the hardest part of this. Imagine you're at the military academy, where this comes from, and you've got a roommate that's blatantly cheating, and you see the roommate cheating, and you know the rule because you can repeat the rule. They ask you all the time as you're marching down the hallway, what's the rule? I will not lie, cheat, or steal, nor tolerate those who do. Now, you want to get along with everybody. You want to go along to get along. You want to join the military's version of the Rotary Club, and you don't want to be ostracized. But on the other hand, you have sworn a solemn oath before God that you will not tolerate those who cheat and lie and steal. So you find stolen items like Simon Hare and the stolen signs that ended up in his campaign headquarters. You find, and he admitted that he knew that they were there, you find these stolen items, and so do you turn in your roommate?
Oh, yes, that comes under not tolerating those who do.
You know, people saw Gil Gilbertson doing it occasionally. He did do it occasionally. Remember, he was the one that came to us and had a press conference and said 9% of the homes have been broken into. And then he had to admit, because the FBI put pressure on all this, that that was completely false. Gil Gilbertson. Now, maybe you like Gil Gilbertson, but you have to jump over the places where he has lied to you.
Yeah, and you have to, you got to get out your calculator and you go, well, how many homes are there in the county? And then 9%, that number times 9%, and that, you have to have that many burglaries. If you don't have that many, then wait a minute, there's something missing here.
Well, let's defend the guy. Oh, maybe he was deceived and didn't know. He didn't know.
Maybe he meant 0.09%.
He didn't know. He had a press conference and put out the details.
Yeah.
When you first heard 9%, would you say, oh, that makes sense? No, it doesn't make any sense at all. It doesn't make any sense. But he was willing to go with it. Now, why would he be willing to go with it? Where's the common sense?
Well, no.
And if he doesn't know, why doesn't he know? That's a ridiculous number.
Okay, and I'm feeling your outrage, but we have a similar problem going on right now because they're doing the same thing. They're telling us they're wise not to put numbers on it, but they're telling us that it's worse than it's ever been before.
The crime rate in our area.
Yes, and the numbers so far don't prove that to be true. Now, I'm open to them, coming up with numbers that we haven't seen before, or having some explanation, but so far there isn't one, and yet they're using the same story as before. The only difference is these guys are smarter than Gil was. That they didn't put a number on it that somebody can instantly take a pen and go, oh, wait a minute.
Well, the other thing is they're criticizing Bill Hunker because Bill doesn't have the latest numbers. Well, nobody has the latest numbers. And let me ask you this question. If they're criticizing him because he doesn't have the latest numbers, where are their latest numbers? We're going with the latest numbers that are available. And so what are they using as evidence to say, well, this is completely false? They have no numbers either.
Yeah.
So we're just the latest numbers that we have.
Yes. And
if we rolled back a couple of years and took the vote again based on the numbers now that we do have, that also wouldn't have passed back then, probably by a wider margin. Listen, why do you believe
I suspect that's true.
This is all happening when the numbers say that it's not? I mean, even I thought it was worse than it is. It's not that. Oh, play the next ad, would you?
I'm sorry, you must have skipped. Did you tell me to play the next one or something?
I did ask if you would
okay, I missed that.
Okay.
This is Dale Matthews, editor of BadCounty.com. The bad guys are losing in town. While we wait to replace the commissioners with better leaders, remember how the Demick Tower was counted as 3 floors instead of 4, and so it went more than $100,000 over plan? Oh, they say, that's nothing.
I'm noticing a theme about these commercials.
How the bad guys are losing. Look, I just talked with Herman Bertschiger last night. He's our state senator. And he said, so give me an idea of what's happening. It's a little difficult, I guess, for him to do that in Salem. Carl Wilson doesn't even ask what's happening, but at least Herman did. And so Carl Wilson's our state rep, and Herman Bertschiger is our state senator from this area. And I told him about the Demick Tower. He says, Demick Tower. So I told him about the 3 floors versus the 4. He said, wait a minute. They thought there were just 3 floors there? Because he knows. He says, it's obvious there were 4 floors. Yes, it's obvious. It wasn't a hidden floor. It wasn't a mystery floor. It wasn't yeah, there were 4 floors. And so how could they possibly miss that? How could they miss that? Listen, how are they going to control the amount of money that's being spent in this county when they can't count to 4? Now, here's what Simon Hare said. Do you see another theme here? Simon Hare said, after getting a lot of criticism for not getting it right, after getting a lot of criticism for maybe a connection with the Courier, who will not report this. They will not report this. I've called the guy out in public. I've called him out by name. Jim Moore, how come you haven't printed this? It's terrible. They hate it when you mention them by name. And press people hate it doubly, okay? We're mentioned by names all the time. Anyway, and bad names. You slimy bastard. Hey, that's my county commissioner calling me that at a public meeting. Anyway, that's nice, isn't it? So try to get them to tell the truth about this. So Simon Hare came up with an explanation. He said, well, you know, when the EPA is there, ooh, the EPA, and these other organizations with acronyms from the federal government, they came in and they investigated to see if we were doing it right, and they drove the cost up. No,
yes. Yeah, that's their fault.
No, they didn't. Why do you tolerate Simon Hare? I mean, really?
Well, because, you know, the average layman doesn't have a better explanation for it. So when he comes up with some wordy, explanation as to why things went awry, I mean, they think, who am I to?
Well, it's just not true. It's simply not true. It's exactly not true. It's completely not true. He's lying straight to your face and saying, well, it was somebody else's fault. No, it's not. It's you.
Yep. And listen, that's why it's important to tune into this show I mean, if you watch no other show, the Thursday night show is the one, because that's going to give you everything that is in the magazine to be fired out at the next weekly business session.
With
And so
22
that's
ammunition or some other kind of ammunition? With
yes.
lead-filled ammunition or
Yeah, right. Yes, and
yeah.
we're very politically incorrect here. We use the lead stuff. So
Our facts are hollow point. Go ahead.
yes, yes, and so listen, you can avoid a lot of problems by paying attention to what your government is doing and participating.
But why? I mean, they're just doing the best job that they can, and they just don't know any better. The reason why is because in order to explain themselves, they reach out and they tell you lies. These are lies. That little kid wasn't sitting in a kind, fostered learning environment. Come on, that's not a learning environment. He was being punished. The parents were being punished through the child. Okay, it's a stupid idea, but that's what they did. And so these other things are stupid ideas too. How in the world can the commissioners, they haven't even tried, how can they explain how they miscounted the number of floors? And then the contractor that came in, that was a no-bid contract, by the way, a no-bid contract. There was no request for proposals. It was no bid. And so they were picked, and they sent in their own people, because you got to think, when you're working with all kinds of governments, there's going to be some lunkheads out there. You just don't think there's going to be 3 of them in one county. And so you send out your own people to do an investigation, all right, and to see what is the lay of the land. Is there really a building? Does it need to be torn down? What's going to be involved? And your guys come back and they tell you also there's just 3 floors and not 4? What? Really?
Well,
And you've got a contract that's written up by Steve Rich, the previous county council, and the contract lets them off the hook if they make that kind of mistake. It lets them off the hook if they make that kind of mistake.
well, and you want to condemn Steve Rich for being a lunkhead.
Okay.
About this, yes, about this situation, and you think, well, that's this guy. Well, there's one of them in here that's a bad apple, but then you have to look at the videos that we have from the other day here with the rest of the entire commissioner staff and the new county council talking to Mark Von Holly about the contract for
Economic development.
economic development. Thank you very much.
I don't want to do half of the things I said I was going to do. Oh, okay.
Well,
and I don't want to have to be held accountable for what I do. Okay. And I'm just going to target contacting people. Oh, okay. And we'll give you the same amount of money for half the work that you now don't really have to do.
So when you watch that, it becomes very clear that this whole crew here has they're a few bricks shy of a load when it comes to full competence and what you would expect from people who listen. If they were spending their own money, they would be a lot more careful about it. But it's not their money, so they don't. So they're not.
This does not mean that every government in the world is bad. Well, no, I'm sticking to that story. It does not mean that. And it does not mean that every commissioner we've ever had has been corrupt. And it does not mean that nobody can count. It just means if you keep pulling that lever the way that we do it here, often enough, you are eventually going to end up with clunk, 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 3 lemons.
Yes.
And we currently have 3 lemons. And so we point this out to you so that you can see, so that when people are coming in, Chuck Benson from the Daily Courier, and everything's going great. No, it's not. And they have to spend full time covering things up or not reporting to you what's happening. They're not reporting it. They're not even going to do a story saying there's a controversy. They don't even admit there's a controversy. There's nothing. Go back to sleep. Well, it's like this. It's like the story about this little kid. What the story finally, after we were way out there ahead of time, finally ran in the Courier. And what was the story? Everything is now fine. Everything is now fine. Oh, yes, you can go back to sleep because everything is now fine. The parents are happy. Really? Are you happy with this guy's performance? All right, play the next ad, please.
This is Dale Matthews, editor of BadCounty.com. The bad guys are losing in the little back room. While we wait to replace the commissioners with better leaders, every so-called economic development scammer in the area is waiting in line to get their free money, and the commissioners can't give it away fast enough.
You know, they're
I guess
always
it was a little
talking.
premature.
They're always talking about how we're being overrun with criminals. They're running through the streets. They're robbing cars. They're breaking into 9% of the homes. Thanks a lot, Sheriff. And they're doing all these bad things. And we need to look out there. Look out there. Look out there. Don't look inside here. This is where the really bad things are happening for hundreds of thousands of dollars while you're sitting there and you might be wondering, I wonder if someone's going to steal my iPad. They're in the little back room stealing everything else that's not nailed down. They're giving it away.
I have nothing to add.
Okay, play the last one. The last one's the best one.
This is Dale Matthews, editor of BadCounty.com. The bad guys are losing our faith. With every lost opportunity, every diversion of funds, every giveaway to big contributors, every fiscally suspect investment in their buddies, these commissioners have simply lost our faith.
Yes. I have lost faith. Yeah, well, you know what? I mean, that's the thing with these guys. It's you know, at this point, I don't believe anything they say anymore. You know, you're gonna have to show me some ironclad proof. I may have had some respect at one point, you know, for like, you know, Simon's very good at you know, talking for 20 minutes and not really saying anything, but hitting all sides of the argument and you know, claiming to be on all sides of the argument. The other two, you know, I mean, it just seems like everything, and Dale has caught me here being jaded. He goes, well, you know, not everything they've done is a failure. Not everything that county government does is a failure. And I'm sort of kind of getting to that place where everything that these guys do, I mean, you really need to come up with a win here. Otherwise, I'm just gonna, you know, I'm gonna be deflated.
Well, one could say, oh, well, the reason you guys are doing this is because it profits you. In what way does it profit us? We're not selling anything. These ads are not selling anything. Well, somehow you're going to profit from this. No. This is what the other side doesn't understand. Well, where's the money behind this? They don't get it. They really don't get it. There's no money behind all this. Well, why would you do it? Because we want a better community?